Hello, Squirrel Tribe. So you may already be aware of the fact that Congress failed to reach a consensus earlier this week when it came to the immigration bill and all of that whole fiasco thing, if you will. Now, the fact that they failed to reach a consensus and nothing has been done means that there are going to be a lot of cities who are going to see a lot of changes because they are now having to implement their own policies, if you will, since our government can't seem to get their heads out of their butts to do anything for us, the people of the United States of America. So let me explain something, what's going on in Denver right now. I've got a couple different cities I want to talk about, but Denver is at the top of the list for right now because according to this, Mayor Mike Johnston on Friday, today is Saturday, my dudes, happy Saturday. Mike Johnston announced on Friday that long forewarned cuts to city services will be entering a different stage in its response to the influx of migrants coming from the southern border. Some people want to say migrants, some people want to say illegal aliens, some people want to say illegal immigrants, some people just want to say, Hispanics. Whatever phrase works for you, works for you. I'm going to go with migrants for the sake of this video. All right. So here's what will be changing for Denverites, I think is what people in Denver like to be called, Denverites, at least like later this month. It'll start later this month. So y'all, this is very, I don't want to say interesting because that's definitely not the right word, but what these cities and states are having to do because the federal government is refusing to do anything to stop the influx of migrants and help the states out, the cities out. These cities and states are now forced to make changes that are going to hurt the actual citizens of their cities and their states because of what our government is allowing. So let me explain this. So according to this, one of the changes that will be happening in Denver, the DMV will stop processing vehicle registration renewals in person beginning March 4th. Anyone who needs to renew their vehicle registration will have to do it online after that date. Vehicle registration, they can do it all online. Those who do not have internet access can also renew their vehicle registrations by mail or at a kiosk. Now, do you understand why they're having to do that? Because they're having to cut back on spending. They're having to cut back on paying employees to do their jobs because they now have to use the money to take care of the influx of migrants that are coming in. Since, again, the government did not reach a consensus when it came to the immigration bill or whatever you want to call it there. Now, it says here, if you're going the mail route, you'll be asked to mail your payment, your renewal card, and proof of emissions or insurance, if required, to the Denver Motor Vehicle main office. And it gives an address here from the article that I am reading right now. I will put a link to this in the description at the end of the video. So if you happen to be in Denver and you're like, what the crap, March 4th, I need to renew whatever, this will give you the information you need on how to renew since going in person will no longer be an option. Now, it also says here that rec centers will see reduced hours. Parks won't be as pretty this year. Denverites will also see some closures or reduction in hours of operation at rec centers, depending on where they live. And parks won't look as lively once the spring rolls around. To start, all 30 recreation centers across Denver will reduce their hours beginning February 20th. We are literally just over a week away from that, but the reductions won't be the same across the board. Regional centers will operate 6 days a week instead of 7, while local and neighborhood rec centers will continue to be open 6 days a week, but with reduced hours of operation. Updated hours of operations for rec centers will be available online next week, according to the Denver city officials. Denver will also reduce spring recreation programming by 25%, but reductions could be updated as we continue with the budgeting process. This is according to a spokesperson for the city on Friday. City parks will also not look as pretty in the spring and summer this year, as Denver will forego planting flower beds in the city this year. Parks and Rec will also be pausing new applications for several permit types until further into the budgeting process, including public event permits, special occasion permits, and tournament permits. All historic and new events that submitted permit requests on or before February 4th will not be impacted. This is according to city officials. And again, what is happening here, the need to cut back, you are now taking away the ability for the youth of Denver City and surrounding areas to use these rec centers to stay off the streets, to stay out of trouble, to stay out of anything that they could be doing that's nefarious. Instead, they're going to these rec centers to, hang out, do whatever. Same thing with older people, obviously. It's a place for people to go to be in a community area where it is safe, where they can play, where they can meet people, where they can have friends, whatever else. And now you're taking it away because you have to cut the budget so that instead you can pay for people who are here in this country illegally, the way they came over the border and whatever else. Same thing with the city, the flowers and the parks. So the parks aren't going to look as nice. Who wants to go to an ugly park? I mean, people are still going to go, obviously, but the whole thing is, if you're not taking care of the parks, those are jobs, park and rec jobs that are now going to be on the burner as well, on the back burner, and it sucks. Then you take into effect that public event permits, special occasion permits, and tournament permits, they're putting those on hold. What happens when those things were what was going to bring in some sort of money for the city? Let's say Comic-Con or whatever. Technically, I would say that would be a special occasion permit or a tournament permit of some sort. Do they just not do that this year? We actually happened to be there when they had a Comic-Con in downtown Denver. And one, it's really weird and neat at the same time seeing everybody in costumes like that. But I'm sure it brings a lot of money into the city. And when you're not going to have public events or special occasions or tournaments, you're losing out on money to come into your city for the local businesses, the mom and pop stores, if you will. Hell, even the corporate places still need to make money in order to stay in business. And here you are having to stop that because of what's happening at our southern border is not only affecting our southern border, it is literally spreading out all over the United States. This one. Services and support for incoming migrants will be impacted. While Denver won't shut the door on new migrants escaping violence and economic instability in their home countries, which I would like to point out, this is what the article says. There is no proof that that's why migrants are escaping is because of violence and economic instability. It could be plenty of reasons, but whoever wrote this article wants it to be thought of that way, that they're coming here for a better life. Could be, could not be, who knows? It says here that the city cannot continue to bear this alone, meaning Denver, and as a result, the city will make changes to the services and support it provides new migrants. To start, the city will begin to decrease the number of newcomers that it serves and will continue monitoring spending. If you have that option to decrease the number, why haven't you done so already? Why not just turn people away? And I know that's easier said than done, because how do you stop somebody from just, walking into your city or whatever else? But if it's so easy to decrease the number of newcomers that you serve, why don't you decrease the number of people you already serve? Move them, get them somewhere else, take them back to the southern border, take them back across the border into their own country, and then you can spend your city's budget on the people that live in your city, that live there, that pay taxes there, that pay the taxes that go towards the parks and the rec centers and everything else. So that's just my thought there. Anyway, according to this, you have to do both. We're going to have to try to find creative ways to reduce the number of folks that we serve and the number of services we can provide, and also reduce the budget at the same time. That is according to the mayor. In the news release, city officials said these cuts will amount to approximately $5 million in savings. Is it really savings, though, if you're having to turn around and spend it on housing and food and whatever else for the migrants that have come into your city? They said, which combined with $10 million from contingency funds and another $15 million from the Castro building, saving total about $30 million as a start to help the city respond to the influx of migrants. So the things that they are cutting, the things that they are doing to save money from spending it on their own people, on their own city and keeping things going, they are now turning around, and $30 million is going to help the city respond to the influx of migrants because the federal government isn't doing jack shit to help or do anything. It says, Johnson said, while they're the first steps, they unfortunately will not be the last, and they may not be the hardest. We will have additional cuts in the weeks ahead, which is awful, and then you're going to have people who are like, well, you shouldn't have been a sanctuary city, blah, 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 blah. There are plenty of cities who are not sanctuary cities who are seeing an influx of migrants because they may get bused somewhere or flown somewhere, but they can still move to your city or my city or any city at their own free will. All they got to do is use their legs or, a bus or a car or bike or anything like that. So these cities that are having these issues, we need to pay attention to them because it could be our cities next. It doesn't matter if they are a sanctuary city or not, or if they asked for it, because a lot of people will say, well, they asked for it. That may be the case by being a sanctuary city, but I'm pretty sure when those things transpired, they expected the federal government to do their part as well, since they are the ones who are allowing the influx of the migrants. So then this other one that I came across, this other article I came across, this is from NBCBoston.com. Seaport area eyed as new site for migrant shelter. All right, and let me explain this to you. While a decision hasn't been made or finalized on the Fort Port building, conversations and potential arrangements are being made. In the meantime, state leaders said they have not stopped searching for the next overflow site. The next overflow site. So you have these cities who are now having to find ways to turn their buildings into shelters for migrants. But again, the question for me has always been, why haven't the same resources been given to turning buildings into shelters for our homeless Americans, for veterans, for domestic abuse women and children, for children of abuse, for everything else? Why is so much being done for migrants as opposed to other people who need it? What about low-income families who need that help? Why is the money going to help people who are here illegally versus people who are here, who are United States citizens and who need your help as, their state representative, or as, the president or anybody else should be helping our own people first? That is me on my soapbox there. I'm sorry. Now, it says here, questions continue to grow on where to shelter unhoused migrants in Massachusetts. With the newly opened shelter in Boston's Roxbury neighborhood nearly full, eyes are now turning to a new part of the city for a shelter. That area is Boston's Seaport. The Fort Point office building could be next. Now, this is a private building, okay? So Fort Point is a private office building with 10,000 square feet of space. And the owner, who was contacted by the state, okay, the owner didn't come out and say, hey, let me just offer up my building here. The state contacted him and said, hey, listen, you've got this 10,000 square foot building. Could you help a city out? Whatever. They said they were interested in converting this into a short-term housing facility. And I can't play the video because YouTube likes to copyright a bunch of stuff, but you can see here, this is from Boston, like I said, and those are migrants just sleeping in the streets outside on the ground up against this building here, which is the Melnia ACAS Recreational Complex in Roxbury. So city officials notified the Fort Point neighborhood that the state was considering this as a safety net site for migrants because the shelter Roxbury is nearing capacity already. The Melnia ACAS Recreational Complex on MLK Jr. Boulevard in Roxbury opened last week. Y'all, it's been open a week, and it was supposed to accommodate up to 100 migrant families of four, so 400 people, right? However, this week, more than 90 families are now in there. It took less than a week to get almost 400 people in there. At some point, we are just not able to sustain everyone that wants to come here. And that's what kills me. At some point, we're just not able to sustain everyone that wants to come here. They can want to go there all day long, but why do you as a city have to sustain them? Why do we as a country have to sustain them? Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Well, I mean, it is, but you know what I'm saying. We're going to keep going here. The situation we now have just can't continue. We have to make some major and dramatic decisions over the next several months. This is according to the Boston City Councilor, Ed Flynn. While a decision hasn't been made or finalized on the Fort Point building, conversations and potential arrangements are being made. In the meantime, state leaders said they have not stopped searching for the next overflow site. Now, State Senate Senator Nick Collins, a Democrat in the 1st Suffolk District, mentioned UMass Amherst Mount Ida campus in Newton as a possible option. He said there seems to be dorm space that is not being used. Y'all, think that through. Dorm space is not being used. Does that mean that in the spaces, like maybe there's like a room here that's not being used and there's like 5 college kids here and then another dorm that's not being used, and so they want to bring in migrants and put them into the dorms where people's children are going? And people can think that I sound hateful when I say that that's a horrible idea, but think about it. We do not know the real reason why a lot of people are crossing the border. You do not know what they are capable of, and you don't want random people that have no background check, who have not been vetted in any way whatsoever, rooming next to your child. Okay, whatever. Keep going here. Now, according to this, NBC 10 Boston reached out to the office of Governor Maura Healey, I think that's how you say your name, which said that the campus is not a viable option and the state is continuing to evaluate sites. So at least right now they're saying it's not an option. Of course, if they're backed into a corner like Denver has been with, the Congress not doing their job, it's possible they may say, hey, listen, it's all we've got. We can't just have a bunch of migrants on the streets, sleeping on the ground because it makes the city look trashy. I'm pretty sure that's what what the whole point is. It really does make the city look bad when you have a bunch of people sleeping on streets, peeing on the streets, pooping on the streets, and just trashing everything. But what makes you think that those same people are going to make the inside of a building any cleaner just because they have a new place to lay down? Like, I don't know. According to this one, Chicago officials say spike is expected in migrant arrivals. How will it be paid for? This one to me was extremely interesting, and let me explain why. New data shine a light on just how much Chicago has been spending to support the migrant mission so far. Okay, you ready? Just over 13,000 asylum seekers are living in city shelters, and city officials said they are preparing for a spike, but it is not clear how the city would pay for such a spike. Okay. It feels confusing tracking and spending the amount of money the city has spent, the amount the state has given, and how much the federal government has contributed. That is because, in fact, it is a very confusing thing to track. The city has been trying to save money where it can, but right now the city cannot seem to get the numbers to add up. Currently, actually every day, we're on meetings, on calls with the state and with the county to figure out what the long-term plan is to get through the calendar year together. This is according to Christina Pasion-Zayas, Deputy Chief of Staff for Mayor Brandon Johnson. In a migrant briefing this week, city leaders were asked once again about their plans to pay for the migrant crisis once the money runs out. New numbers show the city has spent, are you ready for this? $194.5 million on migrant-related vendors from October 2022 to the present month. That does not include the cost of city agencies and their work in the migrant mission, like how much it costs to educate school-age new arrivals. There's $194.5 million that has been spent, not to help the city of Chicago, not to help the people of Chicago or surrounding areas, not to update roads, not to fix water structures, not to fix buildings, not to do anything to help the homeless Americans. It's $194.5 million literally on migrant-related vendors from October of 2022 till now. So just over a year, we'll call it a year and a half. $194.5 million of taxpayer money that has been spent on everything but taxpayers and things that would benefit them. Okay, just want to make sure we really understand that part. Of these vendors, the Kansas-based company Favorite Healthcare Staffing continues to be the highest paid, making $126 million since the mission started. The cost was paid mostly by the state of Illinois, which is your tax money, Illinoisans. The remainder was also split between the city and the federal government. A few days ago, the city amended its contract with Favorite Staffing for a second time. Now their contract is for approximately $150 million over the course of 1 year. Notable because in the city's budget, also $150 million, is the figure allocated for the entire fiscal year. The entire fiscal year budget for the city of Chicago, for everything they needed to do for the entire year, is going towards migrants. It's going towards nothing to help the city of Chicago. It is all going towards migrants. The city is hoping the state and federal government may step in. Bro, hope in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up faster. This hoping when it comes to the federal government doing any part of their job, when it comes to stopping the crisis at the border, stopping the migrants, stopping the illegal overflow of people, and helping the cities and the states out. Where have they been? Where have they been? With their heads up their butts, doing absolutely nothing. So there's that. Governor J.B. Pritzker has said he has plans to put about 2,000 beds at an unspecified location. And it also remains unclear when that will happen. When asked if that act from the state would be something the city would look at to help alleviate spending, Pasion-Zayas said, "We are currently in discussions about how they might be able to apply that, whether it is standing up a new shelter inside or outside of Chicago, or if it's taking over the costs of shelters in Chicago. The city estimates that it has been able to cut food costs down by using new vendors from around $22 per day to about $16 per day per person. But again, this represents a drop in the bucket. $16 per person for migrants to eat per day for 3 meals. How many homeless people are being taken care of the same way? How many hungry children in Illinois schools are having their meals paid for? How many low-income families? Hell, how many middle-income families? Where is the help for the people who have worked their asses off to, be part of this country? Where's the help for them? I need to understand that, because I do not have a problem with helping people that need help. I have a problem with foregoing the people of your own country that need help to help everybody else but them. That is where my issue comes in. See, this is why I can't be an actual journalist, because I'm not allowed to have an opinion, and I am highly really opinionated person. I don't know if you guys have realized this from any video you've ever watched on this channel or on SquirrelTribe 2.0. I am opinionated no matter where I'm at. Now, the way this migrant crisis is affecting Texas is obviously a lot, because that's where they're coming in at the border, is through Texas. But the Texas migrant crisis is now boosting independence campaign. Okay. Now, we know that Texas has been talking about trying to secede from the United States. They're saying, hey, we're just going to be our own country. And once they're their own country, they can do whatever they want with their southern border. Think about that. Really think about that. Right now, their hands are tied, or whatever phrase you want to use, because Biden and the Biden administration and everybody else are keeping them from doing what needs to be done. They had to take down the barbed wire. They had to do all these other things. They, as a state, Texas cannot stop what is happening at the border. As its own independent, seceded country, Texas can do whatever the hell it wants. So keep that part in mind. The ongoing migrant crisis makes 44% of Texans either more likely or significantly more likely to support the state become a fully independent country. This is according to a survey that was conducted for Newsweek, which is where I'm getting this from, the article Newsweek, okay? About another 35% said they were neither more nor less likely to back Texan independence due to the border situation, while 16% of respondents said it made them less likely to back secession from the United States. Tensions between Texan and U.S. authorities have surged in recent weeks. The Supreme Court ruled on January 22nd, just like two and a half weeks ago, that federal agents can remove razor wire placed along the Texas-Mexico border on the orders of State Governor Greg Abbott. In a response, Abbott said Texas was facing an invasion and invoked the state's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. This has sparked growing interest in whether Texas could become an independent nation, as it was between declaring independence from Mexico in 1836 and joining the United States in 1845. Now, Redfield and Wilton Strategies, these are the ones who did the survey. They surveyed only 814 eligible voters in Texas in February, the first couple of days of February, on a variety of political questions. Asked, to what extent, if at all, does the current migrant crisis make you more or less likely to support independence from Texas? 23% answered significantly more likely, with another 21% for more likely. The biggest single group at 35% said it made them neither more nor less likely to support. Daniel Miller, who is the president of the Pro-Independence Texas Nationalist Movement, did tell Newsweek that the migrant situation shows why Texas needs to leave the Union, a process he dubs Texit. Get it? Texit, like Texas and exit, but Texit. I see what it did there. Miller said there is no clearer example of why Texas needs independence than the federal government's destruction of our southern border and their pro-cartel immigration policies. Where's the lie? You know what I'm saying? Like, literally, where's the lie? Nothing he said there is inaccurate. The more the federal government doubles down on its anti-Texas border policies, the stronger our support becomes. This is why we will win referendum on Texit. Now, a lot of people in Texas are probably in the mind frame of either we got to get the hell out of this state, or we have to get this state the hell out of the United States of America. Like, it's one of those two things, I'm guessing, because with the influx and the government doing absolutely nothing to stop it, it's got to be beyond aggravating for people. And I can't. I'm in Florida. I'm in the panhandle of Florida. I'm not dealing with the migrant crisis here like a lot of places are. I see it, and I can understand it, but I can't imagine being in the hotbed of it, if you will, and remaining calm about it. And again, I understand that there's not everybody coming over that border is bad, but the fact that everybody coming over that border is breaking the law. It is breaking the law. It is illegal immigration into this country. There are processes that have to be followed, and they're not being followed at all. And our government's just like, huh? What? Huh? Who? What? Why? Like, I don't understand. But anyway, that is it. I just wanted to bring you a couple updates. Those all came out within the last 24 hours in regards to Denver, in regards to Chicago, in regards to Texas, in regards to Boston. 4 different, well, one's one's a state, the rest are, cities. But those came out in the last 24 hours, and I think they're important to know because we're going to see more and more like that. More and more cities are saying, hey, we got to cut back on our spending. We're going to have to stop, close this down, close that down. There goes those jobs. There goes your ability to talk to somebody in person. There goes the ability for your kids to have, a place to play basketball, any kind of outdoor football stuff. There goes your parks where you can go walk your dog or do whatever else. All because our money needs to go towards migrants instead of, citizens. So there's that. Squirrel Tribe, I would love your thoughts on this. How do you feel? Should Texas say, we're going to skedaddle? What do you think? I'm very curious. What do you think on the Texas seceding from the Union? If you are for it or against it, if you think that it would set a bad precedence for other states, because then what happens when everybody's like, well, if they can do it, I don't want to be in this joker either. We're out. Let's go. And then you just have all these little countries that used to be United States of America, just now they're all independent and whatever. What happens then? What would happen then? That's a good question, though. But hey, I love y'all. Thanks for hanging out with me and letting me have this discussion with you. I appreciate your willingness to have these talks about things, and I'd love to get your comments if you don't mind dropping them down below. And then check out the description. I'm going to put the links to all those articles in there. Plus, there's some other links if you guys want to check things out. There's ButcherBox. You guys save $50 if you sign up for it. ButcherBox, I freaking love them. There's a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. If not, no harm, no foul. There's a link to Squirrel Tribe merch. A lot of people have asked about merchandise. I got some stuff in there if you guys want to check it out. And then I will see you a little bit later for some more stuff. Got a lot to bring you guys. I love y'all. Bye.